Wow, tonight on The Factor, they call themselves heroes, but cops say they're ruining real investigations for clout and clicks. Tonight on The Factor, the dark side of online vigilantes.
Oh, baby. To wear a silhouette of clothes that were... I don't even know how to read.
Plus, the viral video everyone is talking about, kids totally stumped by simple words, but behind the laughs is a very serious question. Are we raising a generation that simply cannot read? Plus, those who really know Michael Jackson, personally and professionally, coming your way here on The Factor.
The Isiah Factor Uncensored starts now.
Welcome and thank you for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored tonight. Could this be a reality check for the internet's amateur detectives who are out there? 32-year-old influencer Jay Carnicom has been arrested in Florida. He built a following of over 1 million people by posing as a decoy to catch alleged child predators. He's been charged with extortion and battery. And according to investigators, Carnicom didn't just confront a suspect on camera. During a sting at Walmart, he allegedly slapped the man twice and tried to force him to eat used cigarette butts under the threat of calling the police. Here are some of his other interactions with alleged predators from social media.
Hey, don't make me hurt you, bro.
One more for the home team.
Hey, what you here doing, Marcus? You trying to be a 13-year-old boy?
Hey, watch your phone. Your phone's ringing.
Big Ben, you came here to get a little girl pregnant, right? You wanted to get her pregnant, right?
Hey, touch us, I'm gonna smack you in your face. Shut up.
Excuse me, everybody! This man right here came to get a 13-year-old girl!
Carnicom's arrest is shining a glaring spotlight on a dangerous social media trend. Law enforcement warns these internet detectives are prioritizing likes and fame over actual justice. We also posted a poll on the Factor Instagram page asking, are viral predator catchers protecting victims or risking cases? 20% of you voted yes, stay out of it, while 80% voted no, let vigilantes fight the crime. Joining us to talk about it, defense attorney and former prosecutor Isiah Factor and Lieutenant Ashton Johnson Hall of the Harris County Precinct 7 Constable's Office. Glad to have you both here. No one has any sympathy for someone who tries to abuse a child, that being child predators out there. That aside, what we're seeing on social media, are they hampering or causing problems for law enforcement officers who are investigating these cases? If they put them on social media, interfere. What are your thoughts about that?
I believe anything that's emotionally driven to curb crime can cause or it can undermine the criminal justice process, starting with due process.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about some of the problems that it can cause, tell us some of the issues that you would see in a video like this if you're confronting someone. Will you guys automatically respond and act upon it? But what issues would it cause posting these stings publicly?
Well, first, we would get a call and respond to probably assault in progress, and then we'll then find out that this guy was online trying to lure in children for sex. And then from there, we will have to, it's a groundwork where we have to go and try to capture all the evidence that the vigilantes captured and make sure that the evidence is true and correct. And then from there, we would try to pursue charges against them, but trying to find out if the evidence is true and correct will be the hard part.
All right, and put on your prosecutor's hat, being a former prosecutor, what kind of problems would this cause if you're going after a child predator and social media vigilantes have already gone after this person, so you're pushed by the public to make sure you follow up?
I'd much rather put on my defense attorney hat.
But first, let's start with prosecutor. What kind of problems would this start?
Well, the issue is that Lieutenant Johnson Hall, you've been trained for how long?
13 years.
13 years, and he had to learn the Texas Penal Code, right?
Right.
And how the laws operate.
Right.
That's the problem. These individuals are not trained law enforcement agencies. They don't know how to conduct a thorough investigation that is aligned with the underlying laws that govern it, right? So you don't understand, for instance, he mentioned authentication. These are online records. If you are engaging with these suspects, there's no way to determine by the court of law, or it's more difficult to determine by the court of law whether those are true and correct conversations. Have they been altered? How do we know that? We were having a conversation earlier. Part of their investigation, they have to wear their body cam as they're typing, talking to the suspects. It's screen recorded. I doubt these online vigilantes are having that same level of thoroughness when they're talking to these suspects. A second issue is the concept called entrapment, which means you want the suspect to be the one doing the luring, right? Sometimes in the interest of trying to get the suspect and trying to get the clicks and the views, sometimes they hit on the suspect. And then that's what's called entrapment, where you are, as the person operating undercover, luring the suspect in. And that's something that a defense attorney can use to adequately stop a case at its heels. The last thing, what you mentioned, is due process, which is a lot of times these people are making a rush to judgment and saying this suspect is in fact the person who did it. So they become the judge, jury, and executioner, as we saw demonstrated here. There have been instances where these people, their names are plastered online, and then it's later shown that they weren't even guilty of what they were accused of, but their name has already been smeared, which is why we should leave this to trained professionals like Officer Johnson.
And of course, we've recently had someone in the journalism world who had the same situation happen to him and ended up suing many of the people involved. Now, as a defense attorney, what kind of problems do you see here?
It's the same. It's the same problems. And so if I'm a defense attorney and there was a case that was investigated by law enforcement versus social media vigilantes, give me the social media vigilante case, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot more mistakes than a trained officer such as this gentleman we have sitting next to us.
And what would be your advice out there for those who are doing this for social media? I'm sure in theory, they're doing it from their heart, but then you get caught up, you become popular, and it could be intoxicating because people are turning to your videos and they want more and more and more, and you start pushing the envelope, pushing the line, crossing that line. What would you tell people out there who are doing this?
Well, first, our Bill of Rights tells us as government officials that we cannot impose cruel and unusual punishment or pain against someone for their crimes. So even though that doesn't apply to them, I first start there. Let's be fair. This could be anyone that has committed a crime. We want them to go through the entire process, document them as sex offenders, that way they can be tracked for the rest of their lives. But what I will say to them is that their passion for child sex crimes, they can join their police department, work with law enforcement officials, because it might be something that they're doing that we're not doing, that they're able to track these predators in a different way. So I encourage them to work with law enforcement in their community, work with the child sex crimes, figure out some type of advocacy program where they can increase the amount of folks that could be tracked, you know, that's actively engaged in these crimes.
And of course, Sador, if we can show that video really quick in the last 30 seconds, and like I said, we have no sympathy for those who take advantage of children, but when you see them being attacked like this by the so-called vigilante Bioji, what are your thoughts about that in the last 30 seconds? What kind of problems do that cause in the case, if any?
That's not justice, right? This person who's been blurred out, he hasn't been tried and found guilty by a jury of his peers before consequences were rendered. And again, we need due process. We need the presumption of innocence. Yes, no one is sympathetic towards a child abuser, but let's prove it beyond a reasonable doubt before we dole out consequences, and let the consequences come from the state and not from private citizens.
All right, we want to thank you both for joining us here on The Factor. Still ahead tonight, we know Spirit Airlines is gone. The budget carrier is officially out of the operation business. So what does this mean for all of us when it comes to affordable or discount flying? Next, we talk about the future of your travel and vacation budget. Plus, you can also weigh in on the segments you see here on The Factor. You can text me at the number on your screen, and I may read it live right here in Studio B. That number is 713-581-9914. You're watching The Factor Uncensored.
other airline could I get off work on a Friday night, race to the airport with a tote bag, buy a last-minute round-trip flight, fly to Vegas for 2 nights, have a grand ghetto ball, fly back home on a Sunday morning, be ready for work by Monday for $89. Spirit Airlines shutting down is the end of an era.
The travel industry has been shaken up with some flyers already missing those bright yellow planes. Spirit Airlines has officially come to an end. The carrier's ultra-low prices force the major airlines to keep their own fares competitive. Now that they are out of the sky, some experts warn this could be the beginning of the end for dirt cheap airline tickets. Joining us to talk about it, luxury travel advisor Tiffany Simple and a frequent flyer, the Queen of Yum. Okay, Queen of Yum.
Okay.
You've been considering road trips. So
yes.
What just driving your car, or you gonna hop on trailways with me? We gonna bring trailways
listen, we
back.
can go together. But the thing is, I've been considering this as for a while. You know, I've been a frequent flyer for many years with my parents working in the airline industry, and now I just wanted to do something different. I've lately had the opportunity to transition into logistics, so I've been on the road for a while. And with this kind of increase in price and things like that, it made me consider like starting to actually do this for a lot more pleasure and content. You know, being on the road has opened my eyes, and there's always going to be a place in my heart for travel and airlines, and I mean, and costly, you know, cost conscious travel. But you know, if it's no more, it's no more, unfortunately.
And of course, Tiffany, this is a result we're hearing from the airlines because of rising fuel prices, jet fuel prices. They also point to the war in Iran as well. So, I mean, will we see prices go way up?
Yeah, as long as this petroleum problem continues, we're definitely going to be able to you know, take a seat back and say, yikes, as far as the prices are concerned. However, I do believe that this is an opportunity for airlines such as Frontier and JetBlue to kind of step in and, you know, intercept that ball. And those Spiriteers, the people that were committed to Spirit Airlines, this is JetBlue and Frontier's, you know, opportunity to snag those people up, because that's going to be your next in line.
Would that be a danger in, though, falling into the same trap that Spirit Airlines fell into, not being able to afford the jet fuel if you keep those ticket prices as low as they were with them?
Well, they're not going to be able to control that part by keeping it as low, for sure. But they're the next to the cheapest as far as, you know, airlines are concerned. So I do believe that people will kind of transition over there to those airlines, especially while they can. And I always say, for people who have been, you know, Spirit Airline, you know, Frontier people for the longest, this is their opportunity to experience, you know, a different experience in travel as far as airlines are concerned. Pay a couple of extra dollars and get that United flight, get that American Airlines flight, and you may realize that, okay, it's not so bad over here.
And do you think any of the big airlines will try to swoop in and say, let's take advantage of some of these low-cost flyers out there? Or they're like, that's their ass. I mean, we just ain't got no room for them.
No, it would be this. It would be very smart to do that, because people want to travel.
But how likely is that? I'm thinking.
You know what? I'm going to say very likely. I'm going to say very likely, because they want to capitalize on a moment. You know, even if that looks like, even if it's a temporary situation, they can make a lot of money in a temporary situation. But this petroleum issue is not going anywhere anytime soon, it doesn't look like. And unfortunately, we're going to be affected in the travel industry when it comes to that.
And Queen of Yum, why won't people get on a bus anymore? Why won't they take Greyhound or Trailways?
You know, I think, I'm going to be honest with you, I think while the bigger airlines are going to try to capture a lot of that revenue, I think that people are going to start looking for alternatives, like myself and like others. But also, if you're going to stay, I think it's also going to be very imperative that you curate consciously where you're going, because you want to make sure that the experience is worth your dollars.
Agreed.
All right. Thank you both for joining us here on The Factor, the Queen of Yum.
Thank you.
A record-breaking movie reignited scandal, and the executives witnessed it all in real time. Next, the people who actually worked with Michael Jackson cut through the controversy to reveal the real king of pop. Keep it here.
This program is being brought to you by Jim Adler, the Texas Hammer.
And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. The new movie, Michael, is officially a global phenomenon, but it's bringing the darkest allegations against the king of pop right back to the surface as accusers slam the film for rewriting history. We're stepping away from the Hollywood script. What was Michael Jackson really like? Joining us to share their firsthand experiences are the industry insiders who literally worked close and were, you know, some of Michael Jackson's bosses, if that's terminology you want to hear. TC Tompkins. TC is here with us, a former music executive of Epic Records. You were in charge of Epic Records, doing Off the Wall and Thriller, and Emilian White, also executive with the company while Michael was making all of those hits. So, first of all, your thoughts about the movie.
You want to start?
I'll start. I really enjoyed the movie, but I had to look at it from a standpoint, I couldn't be too judgmental because I just had to take it for what it was.
You were there.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It was all about entertainment. It was the cash grab. It was to entertain the public. Is it going to be a sing-along? And that's what it was meant to be, a sing-along for the world to enjoy, not for the critics to trash. It was just made as a sing-along and a cash grab for the family as well.
If you would have created that movie, what would have been different?
Oh, I would have put it, you know, you had to have Rod Temperton in there. You had to have Quincy Jones more. You had to have Diana Ross. You had to have, you know, the timeline had to be different in terms, you know, it wasn't exact like it should have been.
They didn't show his accident.
Right.
Where he got his head burnt real bad,
right,
which happened during that period of time.
That was major.
Yeah.
That, you know, that's what.
Yeah, that changed his whole perspective.
Right.
From being in pain constantly all the time and having to
that
take
spot was about that big on his head, and they had to stretch his scalp.
And you guys actually saw it. Yeah. You worked with Michael. TC, your thoughts about the movie, and would you have done something different?
Well, as I stated to Emilian, I saw it as like a highlight reel. That's basically what it was a highlight reel. It wasn't any time or effort put into the man or the person Michael Jackson. It was just a soundtrack, a soundtrack of his life. You know, they showed 2 or 3 records. Never covered any of the major records that they had during Motown, which were huge records. Never covered any of they were only black group that ever had a TV show. They had a cartoon show. They, you know, all the other accomplishments that they made before they left Motown. And I did not like the way they painted Joe. They painted Joe as a monster. He was an odd.
He's a daddy, had 9 kids. He had to be something.
You know, you growing up in the hood in Gary, Indiana, man, you have got to have a firm hand, especially with a large family like that.
Right.
And what he accomplished with that family and those children, I don't think they could have accomplished it without him.
Now, many people look at what Michael received in the movie The Belt, and they call it abuse. Looking at that, from his perspective, would that be abuse or would that be discipline?
That's discipline in a black family. Yeah.
I grew up in the hood. That was discipline. That was easy. That was lightweight.
That was discipline.
Right. So,
I mean, I got too many whoopings to remember. You know,
extension cord. Bricks.
I got that. Extension cord.
That's not abuse. That's just discipline in a black family, especially during that time period. You know, back in the 50s and the 60s and stuff.
60s, right.
Yeah, I mean, oh no, man, it was strict.
The hood was hard.
Now, many critics have said important details about allegations of abuse were left out. Your thoughts about that?
Well, they didn't cover that era. They did not cover that time period.
Do you think, you know, we're hearing part 2, do you think we will hear about that? Do you think the family will allow that?
That's a deep question. I mean, they've got to deal with it. It's a known fact that he was sued several times for for pornography, whatever they call it. But it's a fact. It's a matter of history. You know, so to leave it out completely, they just
after '88, they have to cover that.
Yeah.
You know.
And let me ask you guys a question. Do you believe the allegation?
No. I believe he was odd, and I believe he was a genius. You know, that's one thing that Joe, that's the problem that Joe had. You don't know how to raise a genius.
I wasn't there.
How do you raise a genius? Somebody that's just not going to listen to what you say or what you think, that has their own mindset. And that's another thing that I didn't like. In the movie, it portrayed Michael as a follower. Michael was a leader. Those ideas that they had and the things that he did and the releases he had, Michael was totally in charge of all of that. It wasn't something that the label suggested to him. He made the suggestions. He was the one that insisted on having Off the Wall that his first release be
Billie
something.
Jean.
No, that was on Thriller.
But he suggested, he demanded that Billie Jean be played on
the
MTV.
first record.
Right.
Yeah.
When there were no black records being played on MTV. Michael demanded, said, make it happen.
I'm not going to be treated like this.
Right.
Yeah.
And Emilian, your thoughts. TC tackled the issue of allegations. Do you believe them? Because that's what people are asking.
Well, I mean, I don't dismiss the fact of what somebody believes or what happened, but I don't believe that, in my mind, and knowing Michael, I don't believe that it happened in my mind. It could, because I don't know. You know, but I know Michael for what he was and what he meant to us.
And, you know, and on top of that, he was such a giving person. I mean, Michael built hospitals for kids. You know, Michael, I mean, put wings of hospitals up. Michael gave millions of dollars. None of this was ever mentioned.
Michael bought back Little Richard's catalog and gave it back to him. I mean, he was that type of giving person.
Did that for a lot of artists.
He did it for a lot of artists, man. He was very giving and very charitable, a very charitable person.
And a very shrewd
but he was a kid.
Business person.
And he was still a kid at heart. You know, he loved some Disney World. He wanted to be Peter Pan. You saw that in the movie. You know, he thought he was Peter Pan, so he'd never grow up. So, in the allegations, I don't know, man.
All right. Well, we want to thank you guys for coming on The Factor.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.
I don't know why I didn't call you the first week.
Oh, man.
That's quite all right.
I'm slipping.
I said you slacking.
Thank you, guys.
Those are all things, Michael.
Okay, there we go.
And there's my book right here, When Radio Was King, that has Michael's story in it.
All right.
Let me get that in, plug in.
When radio was king.
Absolutely.
And where can they find that, TC?
Amazon, everywhere online.
Okay. We thank you guys for coming and sharing your perspective.
We needed more time, man. We needed more time.
The devil is busy on the factor. Hold on, don't go anywhere. Still ahead tonight, an absolute runaway nightmare. Passenger plane slammed straight into a truck the moment it touches down. The details on the other side of the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. A memorial is growing at the home of a family killed in a suspected murder-suicide in River Oaks. Family identified the father as 52-year-old Matthew Mitchell, the mother as 39-year-old Ty Mitchell, and their two kids, an 8-year-old girl and 4-year-old boy, who were shot and killed. Houston police say the babysitter and a family member called for a welfare check after they had not heard from the family since Sunday. Officers found the family dead inside their home Monday. Police say the father shot the mother and both children before taking his own life. The Houston Police Department says the kids were found in their beds and the mother was pregnant. Fox 26 spoke with one of the neighbors. She says she never could have seen this coming.
The kids are her, that's her pride. She's so proud of them, and she's loved having, enjoy spending time with them all the time. And they're just wonderful human beings. It's just, they don't deserve any of this.
And of course, the Mitchells have been guests on Fox 26 3 times in just the last few months, as you can see them there, either talking with Coco Dominguez or Ruben as well. Now to this, an Arkansas private school director is behind bars tonight, accused of orchestrating a horrifying child fight club. Investigators say 50-year-old Mary Morrison, the founder of Jonesboro School for Special Needs Students, was caught on video encouraging children to attack a classmate. Prosecutors say a 30-minute video shows Morrison and 18 students surrounding the victim, with Morrison cheering them on as they punched and choked the child. She now faces 11 felony counts of permitting child abuse. That is while a very close call in Newark Airport, as video shows a moment a plane's landing gear hits a bakery truck as the plane makes its approach. The low-flying United Airlines flight missed disaster by mere feet. Meanwhile, the bakery truck driver got, quote, a scare and suffered only minor injuries. There were no injuries among the other 200 passengers and 10 crew members aboard that flight. Still ahead tonight, millions are watching a viral video of kids completely freezing up over everyday words. Are we raising a generation that simply cannot read? We talk about it next here on The Factor.
Kroger always gives Texans.
You're watching the Isiah Factor Uncensored.
Welcome and thank you for joining us for the second half hour of The Factor Uncensored. Now, a viral video getting millions of views online, but behind the laugh is a very serious warning. Kids are being recorded attempting to read this sentence. She wore a silhouette of clothes that were extraordinary but somewhat gauche, and certain words have them stumbling. Take a look.
She wore a suit, clothes that were... Who's this for? Extraordinary, but somewhat Gertrude?
No, explain what that means.
I don't know. Oh!
She wore a sahalat of clothes that were extraordinary, whatever, bro, but somewhat.
What does that mean?
She wore a lot. Wait, she wore. Bro, I don't know, bro. Can you take the card back, please?
She wore a. Oh, baby. She wore a silhouette of clothes that were. I don't even know how to read.
You know, looking at that, guys, it's almost heartbreaking. you know, and people laugh at it on social media, and that's part of the problem. Joining us to talk about it tonight, we have parent and therapist Dr. Bernadette Smith and educators, First Class and Tamara Johnson. Glad to have you. So, I mean, you guys are on the front lines.
Yeah.
What is it like seeing that for both of you as educators?
I mean, honestly, it is a little sad just to know where our generation is headed. Because usually, I know back in school, I would take pride in having my grades together, handwriting, knowing how to read, because that's how you got to the women. That's how you got to the females, writing letters, knowing your word choice. Nowadays, even you see in the video, the females are the ones that can't read. So the guys are not necessarily just the ones now. It usually be the guys back, the jocks, they would say, the ones that's not up on the smarts. But now it's just a whole generation. I feel like it's not just a race either, because their giver care is not as high as it used to be. We care about what everybody else felt.
I can say, and I know that the educators that are laying down in their bed, rubbing their feet together, us at the high school level, we were not surprised at that video. We're in the classrooms every single day. That doesn't surprise us. And so while we're here, it is a sad situation. And it's not just a parent problem. It's not a teacher problem. It's a community problem. A lot of our children just did not get the proper support that they needed from K through 3rd grade. If you get to the 3rd grade and you don't know how to read, and the school system is steady promoting you, back in the day, you used to get report cards. When we was in the 5th and 6th grade, we used to open up our report cards, and on some people's report card, you saw a big retained. Students are not being retained today.
And even back then, they had parents who would say, I'm not sending them to the next grade until they get it together.
Oh, no, I'm not going to embarrass my child by holding him back. It's a social thing, social status. Sometimes they move them along to keep them from being embarrassed. You know, they'll just move them right along, knowing that they have not received the fundamental skills that they need to even succeed in the next grade level. And the more they go, it doesn't surprise us that they get to high school, because the gap is so thick at that point, because they didn't get the intensive instruction that they need. And if you don't do it early and you don't do it aggressively at home and at school, that gap is going to continue to grow. So you have students that have gotten to high school that has learned how to camouflage and fit in and hide behind behavior, the Jordans that they parents wear, your eyeliner is good, your lashes is good, and baby, your frontal is laid. And so no one knows that you don't know how to read, because your social status is so high.
I mean, they know, and again, I think COVID was a time where they just did it, and so many people got moved up to the next grade without going to school for that whole time. They was letting people out of school, so now it's a norm.
So I think we, to your point, looking at it from a community, but also a systemic issue, we also have to look back to when I was in high school, there were people there was a guy, all he used to do was stare at us in class. That man could not read, right? And so it's not something that is foreign. It's not something that is foreign, but it is something that we have to address systemically. So when you're talking about, like, historically had been the athletes that were getting pushed along, well, if the athletes are getting pushed along, then that is pointing to a systemic issue that is allowing this to then be trickled on. One of my favorite professors, Dr. Bloom, she talked about the ramp theory, where if you're not doing for the lowest of the people who need support, other people are going to end up sacrificing as well, right? So being able to look at it as a parent, I see that. And what COVID taught me is that I cannot teach my babies. My babies will know how to communicate their emotions, but they won't know how to read it. So being able to have the resources to have a reading tutor is what has helped to support my family.
And what caught your attention, Dr. Smith, is when Ms. Johnson said the camouflage in order to survive, not knowing, not being able to read. Why did that strike a chord with you when she said they camouflage the ability you know.
Well, that's because, again, that's something that becomes very common. People who experience a deficit in general, right? And so with this particular one in reading, they learn how to navigate and circumvent the system so that they can appear smart, or maybe they piggyback off of what somebody else says. So maybe they're not having to read it, but maybe they're just regurgitating ideas. It makes me think about, what was that movie, Annie or something, where she couldn't read, but she just would memorize things. And so sometimes they can be good at memorization, right?
Absolutely.
And so being able to develop other skills, and sometimes it is just physical, and other times it can be something to where they're learning how to navigate in other ways.
And I also want to speak to the fact that the schools are overcrowded, teachers are overwhelmed, under-resourced, and a lot of teachers are saddened by what they see on an everyday basis in the school, that we are losing highly qualified teachers on a daily basis. And what we have been getting in the classroom is not certified teachers who knows how to teach students. And so what you have in there is an adult body, but no one is really learning. And I hate to say it.
We're going to take a quick break here. We'll continue this conversation after the break. Stay with us, and remember, if you have a question or you want to comment, 713-581-9914. When we come back, call or not call, text that number. We'll be back.
Text us.
Real people.
And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. We continue our conversation about illiteracy in younger generations, or those who are finding it tough to read. And of course, guys, let's get back to it. There's a lot you all have to say. Let's get to it. And you talked about social media.
I did, because social media is quick, it's gratifying, it's right here, it's right now, and teachers struggle to engage students because we have a generation of children that was raised in front of a tablet, you know, or in front of a phone.
That's how they learn.
And so when you're not up doing a dance, you have to really be skilled in how to engage students in a lesson.
And to that point, bringing it back to the whole technology, being able to then learn what's that difference between leveraging technology to help support education versus leaning on it as
Correct.
Because if you're not teaching, my stats teacher, he made us write all our statistics by hand before we could even use the software.
Right.
And so then if we're using a lot of this schools, didn't one of the HIC schools say they're going to be an AI campus focused, right? But if you're not teaching how to spell, if you're not teaching reading comprehension, then the kids are just going to speak to spell.
Yeah.
Hey, how do you spell this?
That's what they do.
And let me get in this really quick. One viewer says it's even to the point where students are not passing the STAR test, but are passed along in hopes that they'll get the concept the next year.
Yes.
Then we as teachers end up teaching 5th graders who read on a 3rd grade level.
Yeah, and that's why I say everything is so backwards.
Well, bless their heart.
Because again, you move up so many people, it's like, wow, we can't keep these many people back. And I think that's the problem that we're having. There's too many people at a high rate that's going down, especially in our community. And like I said, we got to give some of that accountability to the kids, because you got to care a little bit. You can't be, if we come to the school and your whole sole purpose is to come there and learn, but that's not what's on your mental, that's not essentially the teacher's fault.
And really quick, guys, Dr. Smith, let me get this in. I am 65 years old, and that's how they did me. They kept passing me on, and that's so sad. I hit it very well, even from my own daughter.
Yeah.
Meaning she went through this, and she's 65 years old now.
Yeah.
And again, learned helplessness is a thing. Saying that the students need to be responsible, yes, but they're also children who are not, their frontal lobe isn't fully formed yet. But then additionally, if they feel like, oh, I can't read, oh, I don't know this, they're not going to have the motivation to try to go to it. And again, being able to look at, we in Texas, we know how to spend our money. They just don't want to spend it on education.
And I can just say,
we got 30 seconds, really quick.
Being at the high school level, we don't have time to teach phonics. We're in high school. So to go all the way back to someone that's reading on a 5th grade level or a 3rd grade level to teach them letter sounds and phonics, the baby says silhouette. It's S-I-L. Why would you say Sulu? That ain't even close to silhouette.
All right. We want to thank you guys for doing what you can in the trenches. We know it's a tough job.
For real.
And we need to extend this conversation.
Again?
Not tonight, though. Not tonight. Not tonight. We'll get you next time. Still ahead, everyone wants the financial freedom to retire early and walk away on their own terms. But when is it actually safe to retire? We'll talk about that next here on The Factor. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. It is the ultimate goal, retiring early and leaving the 9-to-5 behind. People are obsessed with the movement, the FIRE movement, and building up enough to walk away money to quit their job whenever they want to. But before drafting that resignation letter, you need to know if your bank account can actually handle it, sustain the lifestyle you want. When should you really retire? Here to give us the hard truth and run the numbers in our Factor Learning Hub is financial advisor Mickey McGill. And of course, you'll have 4 minutes rather to go over some of the tips. So we hear FIRE money. Exactly what is that?
So
the FIRE movement.
FIRE movement, right. It's about financial independence, retire early.
Okay.
That's what it is.
And so a lot of people are opting to retire early. But how do you know when you can do that?
So, listen, so FU money, that's one of the other movements that's out there. But
and you heard that right. He said FU money.
That's
and it
what
means
they said.
exactly what you think it means.
Exactly. But there's 4 things that you really need to focus on when you're talking about can you retire early. That's really what it boils down to.
Big board up.
Right. So first of all, define the life you're retiring to. It's not about age anymore, it's about financial independence. Choosing to work because you want to, not because you have to. Making sure what does your need look like? What do you need to live on? You know, how are you going to spend your money? Are there people responsible that you're financially responsible to? You have to think about. Number 2. Know what your financial independence number is, not just your net worth. Net worth is good. It looks good on paper, but it's really about making sure that your cash flow is there, because your cash flow actually pays your bills, right? And this is the thing. When you're looking at retirement, you have a nest egg of money, right? That nest egg of money needs to produce income for you so you can retire. There is a rule in the FIRE movement that says 4%. 4% of your assets will produce the income for the rest of your retirement. That's a rule of thumb.
But that nest egg has to be significant to produce that 4%, which would in turn sustain you on a yearly basis,
right?
Oh,
most definitely. So think of it this way. I do the opposite. 25. You take the number you need and you multiply it by 25. That tells you what that asset needs to be. If you're going to have $100,000, multiply by 25, that's $2.5 million. Now, the good news is you have other income, Social Security, if you're a teacher, TRS, there may be a pension, but those numbers are important, but you have to make sure that it's going to last through good and bad times. Because if you don't plan for your assets to go through bad times, it's not a plan, it's a fantasy.
Got it. Let's go to number 3.
Number 3, build optionality before you quit. Completely. You know how people go from 0 to 100 real quick? Well, the opposite is true. You don't want to go from 100 to 0. You want to make sure that you are maybe working less, right? Being able to monetize your skills so you can actually provide income for you. Not everybody can retire and not work ever again. They may need to have side hustle and side money that comes in, and that's also important.
All right, number 4.
FU money. It's about dignity, not ego. And listen, sometimes people think FU money is, I'm on a boat, I'm spending millions of dollars. It's not necessarily that. It gives you the ability to walk away from toxic work environments. It gives you the ability to say no without fear. Sometimes when you work, you don't have the ability to do that. FU money says, let me have enough money saved up so I can walk away from this job when I want to.
And of course, before you retire early or you decide to retire, you have to realize, will I be okay not doing anything? Because a lot of people retire early, 30, 40, 50 years old, and they get bored. They have nothing to do, and they want to go back to work.
Yeah, that's a very big thing. So a lot of times when I talk with my clients, you need to retire to something, not from something. Do you want to give back? Do you want to volunteer? What other things are you going to do? Traveling, watching TV all day gets boring. You have to have purpose, and going into retirement with purpose is most important.
All right, Mickey McGill, thank you for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored. Remember those 4 tips, and we will be right back.
Fox Soul.
And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. And of course, I'm going over some of your texts here on The Factor Uncensored. One person says to the education segment, I'm listening to the show and I can somewhat agree with some of your guests talking about the education problem that we have here. Everything starts at home. Parents need to be parents and not their friends to further educate their children. My grandson was going through the same thing in 2nd grade, not quite able to read, she means, and I told them to hold him back and don't pass him to the 3rd grade. The school was just passing him on. I had him tested for dyslexia, and that was a problem, so he's getting the help he needs and going to and doing a whole lot better now. And of course, keep your texts coming throughout the program. Of course, the program is ending now, but for tomorrow. But we want to thank you guys for joining us, and we want to remind you to make sure you check us out on our new YouTube page at Isiah Factor Uncensored, where you can catch The Factor Uncensored along with many of the segments that you have missed. Also, don't forget to check us out on social media, Instagram, X, and of course Facebook, and download the Fox Soul app where you can catch The Factor along with many other great programs. But once again, we want to hit home. Go follow us on YouTube at Isiah Factor Uncensored. We need you there. We need your support there. Isiah Factor Uncensored on YouTube, where you can catch many of the programs that you may have missed already. We will see you back here the next time. Have a great one. Thank you, guys. Good night.